Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Parabellum podcast.
And today is Veterans Day.
Happy Veterans Day. Thank you to all our veterans out there.
I hope that everybody who is married to a veteran is spoiling them today.
Make sure you thank a veteran every day the rest of this month. We should have a Veterans Month and not a Veterans Day, but that's a whole another subject for debate.
I mean, honestly, if you see a veteran, it's just kind of common courtesy, say thank you for your service, right?
Yeah, for the most part. Yeah,
now, do you appreciate it when people say that, or is it just like saying, hey, how you doing? It's like, you don't really care how I'm doing. It's just, like, I'm not going to stop and tell you how I'm doing. I'm just going to say good and keep walking because you don't even want to, you don't want to sit up through that.
I mean, I appreciate the sentiment often, and I think every veteran could probably say, I often just don't know how to respond to that. Thank you, my pleasure, you too, and it's like, so often I just don't know how to respond to that. And you just say thank you or my pleasure or something. So.
How about thank you for acknowledging me? No, that sounds like Eeyore. Thanks for noticing. I have often wondered that, like, what do veterans really want from like people like me who I've never served, like? Ideally, like
to leave us alone.
Well, I can't leave you alone. Okay, you moved into my house. Okay.
I mean, really, yeah. Just thanks for your service, I guess, is the best course of action. And if you get the people that want to start asking you questions, that might be. It's just like, no, just thanks for the service and have a nice day, I guess.
I'll write my memoir when I fill up for it, and you can buy it, type deal.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
When are you writing your memoir?
Probably never. I'm not important enough for anybody to read it.
Your grandkids might want it. I mean, we got 6 kids. I mean, odds are we'll get at least one grandkid.
Possibly. Hopefully.
Yeah. They'll want to get in your military stuff and all that joy. Anyway, so we kind of started a stir online, didn't we, with our last post?
Yeah, I guess so.
It's funny. So we posted our images of us carrying on the Greenway in Alcoa, and that's not something rare for us. We tend to open carry in places that's appropriate to open carry, get images of it, and then share it, tag the location, and say, carrying in this location. And it's like, this is a business that welcomes the Second Amendment supporters, or this is a place where you're required to have a permit. This is a place where you're not required, just to prompt discussion and raise awareness.
Yeah, I really don't understand what sparked this one. I mean, we've done it several times. We've been out in the middle of the island of Pigeon Forge. We've been in several businesses. Yeah, like you said, we're always promoting it and saying, hey, this place is firearm friendly or whatever. And so I don't really know what it was about this post that just...
This time it was 90 comments when normally we get 3.
Yeah, 3.
And it's something like, oh yeah, I like that ice cream or whatever.
Yeah.
And I think it's what I find ironic is the people who comment, they could be categorized into 2 sections, and that's, how dare you be carrying here? What is wrong with you? People trying to enjoy a peaceful walk and they have to see a couple with their firearm. Oh my gosh. What do you think this is? A red state in the South? I wish I was back in New York. Or it was, well, why are you saying we have to have a permit? We don't have to have a permit here. We can carry anywhere. I can put an AR-15 on my back. And then there were the people who thought that for some reason we just saw a random couple and started taking pictures of them after asking them if, yeah. I'm not too sure what they thought.
I really don't know how they came about thinking that we just were approaching random people. It's like, especially if you follow our Facebook page, you can see our faces all over the place. But obviously we've reached out to people who aren't following us. But yeah, you're right. 2 categories of, and that's the biggest thing is, we've constantly been preaching and trying to educate. Tennessee is not a constitutional carry state. First, let me make it very clear to everybody out there. We are a state of Tennessee certified training school. I am a state of Tennessee certified handgun instructor for both the Department of Safety and Homeland Security, which governs the permits, and the Department of Commerce, which governs private protective services. So we can train armed and unarmed security guards, we can train active shooter, we can train civilians, we do the permit classes, and I'm an NRA certified law enforcement patrol pistol instructor. The reason I say that is because we are disseminating information straight from the state.
Mm-hmm.
We are not giving you any other information other than what the state is telling instructors to teach at this time. We're not making it up. We're not Googling it ourselves. I am telling you.
We're not asking ChatGPT.
Yeah, we're telling you exactly what is taught in the permit class. So you can take it with some credibility, not even some credibility, all credibility that what information we're giving you is what the state wants. So the fact that people are still coming at us with this constitutional carry, we don't need permits and stuff, it's kind of irritating, actually. We've been trying to push this since we've opened on why it's still important to get your permit. And we keep pushing the fact that Tennessee is not a constitutional carry state. It's not a constitutional carry state. Constitutional carry means no restrictions. And the fact of the matter is, Tennessee still has restrictions.
Yeah, it's low restriction.
It's not, yeah, it's low restrictions. It's more of a, at this time, it's more of a permitless carry state. There are still locations in Tennessee that require you to have the permit. And the information that we give you is exactly what's taught in the permit class. So, yeah, to your point, it's every time we post something like this, it's somebody always has to make a comment of, you're stealing people's money. We don't need the permits anymore. Why are you even offering the permit classes? And
yeah, I mean, you go through the comments, you have Ansley Reed, no sir, Tennessee lifted having to have a concealed or an open carry permit. And then Wyatt Griffin, Tennessee is a permitless carry state. Then Jason Doggy Cooper, or Doogie, I don't know. Tennessee is an open carry state now, so they can carry wherever, and or permits are for open carry, so you can conceal with a permit or open with or without a permit. I don't even know exactly what that meant. Okay. And then El Dami Hulimo, who said Tennessee permit is required. Tennessee is a non-permit or licensed carry, required to carry, period, open, and conceal. Do these people know how to put periods and commas? Then I live outside of Maryville. I've been stopped by police in the same area as the guy in the picture with my pistol on my hip, and not once did they ask about it being on my hip or the 3 mags I had in my belt with it. Tennessee is a constitutional carry state unless you are a felon.
Save that one. I want to come back to that one later.
Okay. And then Russell West, constitutional carry state. You do not need a permit to carry, open or conceal. Go back to your blue city and blue state. It's like, would we be carrying at all if we were blue staters?
I've never once lived in a blue state. I'm born and raised in Florida. I come to Tennessee. I've never lived in a blue state. I don't support blue states. I've been a Second Amendment.
But the thing is, blue state people who move here and keep the blue state mindset, they don't go, well, you should have a permit. They go, oh, all these people with guns, this makes me uncomfortable. We need some gun control here.
Yeah,
I want to turn this into the place I fled from because I'm stupid.
So many
or
people.
there's somebody who they lost that mindset and they're like, load me up. Give me guns. I want training. I want an AR. You know, we met a woman from New York. She moved in and she's like, the first thing, she's like, I want an AR-15.
Yeah, so many people on there talking about how we don't need permits. So let me just make it clear again. It is a permitless carry state. There are still locations in Tennessee as of right now that require you to have your permit. For instance, public parks, state parks, national parks, waterways, forest ways, camping areas, trails, anything that is owned and operated by the state, county, or municipality, you're technically required to have the permit when you go into one of those locations.
Or it's somewhere you can't have it at all because it's like the courthouse
the
or a school or
schools, government.
I think post offices.
Post offices. It's a government premises. So and then private properties that don't want you to have your gun. That have a posted no firearms, which they're just not going to get my business.
Or we're going to conceal carry, and unless they have metal detectors and armed security, they're not going to know.
Yeah.
So,
I tend to tell people just respect what the private property owner wants, even though, if it's concealed carry, you shouldn't know about it. But there still are restrictions. There are still locations that you are required to have your permit. And I like to call it an invisible boundary. Most of these locations, often you don't even know you've entered there, like the Cherahalla Skyway. Now, there is a sign that says entering Cherahalla Skyway National Forest, parts of the Dragon Tail, Citico Creek, Indian Boundary, Cades Cove, all those places you're still required to have your permit.
Now, one other piece of information that a lot of the commenters were saying was, oh, well, that's been repealed. That doesn't exist anymore. That and the rights that are the intent to go armed.
So there's two big things right now. Tennessee still has in the code, I believe it's 3917-1307 or something like that. Specifically Tennessee code 39-17-1307 that talks about the unlawful carry. And it specifically says it's illegal to carry with the intent to go armed. Now, they left that in there for one reason and one reason only. And for all the First Amendment auditors and stuff out there, I personally kind of agree with it from a cop's perspective. I can see people, civilians, not agreeing with it. But the reason they left that in there is because law enforcement, if you are carrying, like let's say open carrying, they know you're carrying, they can stop you with no reasonable suspicion or probable cause and determine whether or not you fall under one of the ineligible guidelines. Because it says in the statute it's illegal to carry with the intent to go armed, and then it has a bunch of exceptions. Now, the exceptions are pretty much everything at this point.
Everything besides you're going to commit a crime or
Right.
You're not legally allowed to have the gun in the first place.
Right. Felons, domestic violence, stalking, restraining orders, all those typical things under the federal guidelines. So as of right now, if you're walking down the road open carrying, a law enforcement officer can stop you, ID you, and determine whether or not you meet one of the eligibility guidelines without reasonable suspicion or probable cause. That is their reasonable suspicion you're carrying. Now, that brings up pros and cons to open carry versus concealed carry. If you're concealed carrying, they're not going to know you have it. But that's why they left it in the statute. And then the other, so the first thing that's under question is the intent to go armed. And then the second thing is, well, it's not truly a constitutional carry state because there's still locations in Tennessee that require to have the permit. So there was a motion to repeal both of those, intent to go armed taken away and needing a permit in all of these locations taken away. That has not been removed yet.
But a lot of people are swearing up and down ahead.
Yeah,
and it's like, yeah, it was voted to be removed. But the fact of the matter is, I believe when it comes to the intent to go armed, they said it was too ambiguous. They said that it made it too gray who could and couldn't carry now. And they were like this article I'm reading, they're saying like, well, you removed that, now it sounds like a 10-year-old could be carrying an AR. And it's like, I think you'd have to be pretty dumb to think that, but people, they tend to push rules to the limit, oh, well, does that mean this? Well, how about this,
Right.
How can this be interpreted? So yeah, because there's always going to be those people, maybe. But the fact of the matter is, it's not official.
It's not official.
And it may never
go through. I mean, there's been motions, you've been reading about it, you've read about it. And that's the problem is people, we call them the Facebook lawyers, the TikTok lawyers, you cops call them the jailhouse lawyers. And I'm not saying that as an insult to anybody, but you're getting your information from unreliable, unsourced, unscholarly articles, I guess you can say, where, Tennessee, people say Tennessee's a constitutional carry state. Before these things were even questioned for repeal, people think we didn't need the permit anymore. And the problem is that's not the case. And I tend to tell people I think Tennessee's screwing people over by calling themselves a constitutional carry state because of that. Now, maybe that's why they're trying to push these repeals in to get these removed so they can truly be a constitutional carry state. But you're getting your information from sources that don't have all the information. And I can tell you, as a Tennessee certified school and instructor, I'm getting the information from the state directly. Now, I've spoken with our school's state inspector. I've spoken with the director over the permit courses, and they have said, yes, there's talk about it. Yes, there's been motions to make this happen. But as of right now, I've been specifically told we are still going to teach this pieces of information. And they said, if it goes through, we'll be the first ones to be notified because they're going to notify us. They're going to change the PowerPoint presentation and the information in it to reflect that it's been repealed. But as of right now, we are still teaching intent to go armed, and you still need to permit in these locations until the state says otherwise, until it comes down to us. And I'll be the first one to tell you, we will be the first ones to tell you, if it gets passed down that it was passed, we'll post something and say, yay, it's been passed or whatever. You don't need the permits anymore. Like I said, as a cop, I kind of agree with the intent to go armed, but if they remove it, I'll support it. I get it. I get where civilians are coming from with that. But people need to understand we are not giving you false information. How many times are people saying that on the, the one guy was like, oh, you're spreading false information. I'm not going to shop at your gun store.
It's like, well, we kind of don't want dumbasses in our gun store anyway, so that's good.
We're not providing you false information. This is coming straight from the state. And if you want the correct information, you ask. It's like, remember we had that guy like a year ago. He messaged us on Facebook asking a question about carrying in his car. We answered it. He thought he didn't like the answer. So he was like, well, that's not true. There's Supreme Court documents that say otherwise, and you're just spreading false information, and I don't believe anything you're saying now, and I don't want to take your permit class. It's like, we keep getting that all the time. And it's like, again, what I said earlier, we're coming straight from the state. This is information straight from the state, information straight from Tennessee code. I'm almost reading it verbatim.
It's not simply like, oh, we saw it in the code and this is how we're interpreting it. It's like literally they say, okay, this is what you are required to teach. And failure to teach that, teaching anything else, is going to get you in trouble.
But people are doing their own research or Googling it or reading some article that has no credibility. So we give them the answer and they say things like, oh, there's a Supreme Court ruling. And I'm like, where's the Supreme Court ruling? Show me the Supreme Court ruling because I haven't seen it. And then there's crickets, right? They never have.
Oh, actually, I remember that guy. He responded by sending us a page from a lawyer's personal website that the lawyer wasn't even in Tennessee.
Yeah, it was a completely different state.
Dude, this lawyer is basically made a page that said, yes, you have a case in this situation. Because let's face it, then you hire her and she makes money whether you win or lose.
Yeah, and it was a completely different state.
And it's not even in Tennessee. This is somebody in on the other side of the freaking country. So what does that have to do with Tennessee codes? This has nothing to do with it. Well, let's circle back though to what you said about the intent to go carry laws and why you approve of it as somebody who's previously been in law enforcement. I'm going to say, as somebody who has not been previously in law enforcement, never will be in law enforcement, I think that sucks. And so I have issue with it. Like, I understand. It makes your job easier. Great. Whatever. You're criminalizing the entire population. That right there it reminds me of when cops for a while were stopping us to see if we were buckled. Like, that always annoyed the living hell out of me because it's like, dude, I'm sorry. If you don't have a reason to stop me, leave me the hell alone. If my license plate is expired, my back light is out, I ran a red light, you can see a silhouette of my kid jumping up and down in their seat, you can pull me over and you can say, oh, by the way, is everybody buckled? And you can fine the heck out of me for not being buckled. Fine. But don't flippin' stop me while I'm driving to see if I'm breaking the law. Do not come into my house to see if my firearms are properly locked away. And do not stop me if I'm walking down the road in a place where I'm not even required to have a permit to see if I happen to be up to no good. You see me do something illegal, you can stop me. You have a reason to feel suspicious of me, fine. But the thing is, when you do stuff like that, you're literally incriminating the entire country. And so as somebody who has no history in law enforcement, and I understand it's a difficult job, and it's a very dangerous job, and they're going to want things that make their job easier and less dangerous. But you signed up to be a cop, not me.
Well, that almost sounds like what people say is like, we shouldn't charge people for battery on a law enforcement officer because it's part of our job to get hit. And it's like, no, There's nowhere in it
No,
says
because
that,
there is no time when it's appropriate to beat
yeah, but
up
people
a
believe
cop.
that. People believe that. But the, try to answer that question the best I can. It's like, and like I said before, I get it. I do. I get that perspective of it. Like, I'm not doing anything wrong. I'm doing what I'm legally allowed to do. So why should you be able to stop me without reasonable suspicion or probable cause? I do get that. Going to the seatbelt thing, well, we weren't doing traffic stops to verify whether you're breaking the law. They were only supposed to be stopping you if they could actually see
Okay,
that you weren't wearing a
but that was
seatbelt.
not my experience. Okay, I remember driving from Tellico to Nyota, being stopped, and then being like, "Hey, yeah, this is a routine traffic stop. We were checking to make sure everybody's buckled." And some cop stuck his head in, shined a flashlight in everybody's face. Well, are you guys all buckled? You guys back there buckled? Okay, well, you guys have a great day.
Well, that's like,
And it's like, okay, whoever is the sheriff of this county needs to be fired. He needs to be voted out
Well,
because
first
he
off,
sucks.
that's like DUI checkpoints, and people saying DUI checkpoints are unconstitutional because you're stopping us to see if we're driving under the influence instead of having a reason to stop us. There was for a while, now I was never a cop here, but there was for a while when the state started pushing seatbelts that it was coming down from the state. So not the sheriff or the chief, it was coming down from the state that they were going to do seatbelt checkpoints to see if people were buckled. And again, we could have a whole different debate on the constitutionality of that and pros and cons of that. In my experience, I never did that. I was never part of an agency that did that. And that's going to transition into what I said. I want to go back to that comment was, well, just because one cop did it doesn't mean all cops are going to do it. And I was never a part of that. I never did seatbelt stuff. The only way I stopped you is if I could see that you were not wearing a seatbelt. And that's very challenging because you would either had to be a red light or stop sign or traveling slow enough past me that I could see that the strap one isn't around you. And then I've had people say like, oh, well, I take the strap and put it behind me so I was still buckled. And it's like, well, technically that's not wearing your seatbelt properly. So, and then I think it was a secondary offense first. Like, I'd have to stop you for speeding, then I could see you weren't seatbelted and then ticket for you. And then it became a primary offense. And I don't know the changes to it since. But I mean, since you bring that up, I get it. But there's another part of me that goes, well, until you've had to clean up a traffic fatality where somebody's splattered all over the roadway, you won't get it. And it's like, you've even said to me before, well, why should it matter? If I'm an adult and I don't want to wear my seatbelt and I get ejected out of my car and I die, that's my problem. But it's like, well, no, it's not your problem. It's now my problem because now I have to clean you up off the side of the road. Nobody else has to see your splattered brains all over the road because you got ejected from the car and now we're cleaning you up. It's not your problem because, well, you're dead. We're the ones that have to clean it up. So yeah, I do get what you're saying with that. Is like, well, if I'm an adult and I don't want to wear my seatbelt, I'm going to accept the consequences. I do get that. But then the other part of me is like, well, we've seen it so much that we're like, if I can write you a $166 traffic citation, which what it was at the time in Florida for not wearing your seatbelt, and that's going to cause you to go, I don't want another $166 non-moving traffic citation, so I'm going to wear my seatbelt, and I prevent you from getting an accident down the road that prevents you from being ejected from the car, well, then I did my job. But again, yeah, I can't argue with your point. I do get it. I'm just telling you from a cop's perspective. So I'm not saying what you're saying doesn't have any credibility with me. I do completely understand that. But going to the being able to stop with the intent to go armed. Well, first I would say that I don't know if I necessarily want to say that it's because it makes our job easier, to your point, because I don't want to do anything that's going to violate the law or make people question cops just to make my job easier. I guess in some ways you could say that. But the way I look at it is, number one, as of right now, Tennessee says it's illegal to carry unless you meet one of these exceptions. So and again, we go back to pros and cons of open carry versus concealed carry. If you're concealing, I don't see anyway, but if you're open carrying walking down the sidewalk, as a law enforcement officer, I can stop you to verify that you don't meet one of those things, because it's illegal unless you can prove to me that you meet one of these exceptions. And that's why they kept it in there. They're not saying you have the right, and that's why it's not constitutional carry, because it's not. Constitutional carry, to your point, would mean I'm not doing anything illegal. I'm in a place where I have the right to be, I can carry. But the reason that statute's in there is because that's not true. It says it's illegal to carry with the intent to go armed unless you meet one of those exceptions. Therefore, I, as a law enforcement officer, can stop you to verify whether or not you meet one of those exceptions. Because as far as I'm concerned, until you can prove to me otherwise, or until I can prove otherwise, you are committing a crime. And then that brings up to the civilian point. Well, so everybody's a criminal, like you said. You're treating everybody like a criminal. And yeah, that's unfortunate. And from the cop mentality, I had somebody tell me once that they don't think cops should do traffic stops anymore. He said cops should not do traffic stops. More cops, and he's right, statistics show that more cops get shot and killed in the line of duty on traffic stops. It's our number one cause of line of duty deaths in the nation. We stop somebody, they just murdered their wife, and now they're going to shoot us. But we do traffic stops because it turns into other things. We find people with warrants. We find drugs. We found kidnapped people. All these things over 100 years that traffic stops have led to other things. It's called proactive policing. So what that guy is basically saying is, and again, I'm not faulting him. He makes good points, but we are a proactive policing nation. And not to insult anybody's intelligence, but most of the time I'll describe it like this. I said, take firefighters. And this is not an insult on firefighters at all. I know there's always a joke between law enforcement and firefighters. Firefighters and EMS are reactive. They only go out when they're dispatched for calls, when something is actively happening. We don't have fire trucks that are driving around actively looking for fires or actively doing things to prevent people from starting fires. They're reactive. Law enforcement is out and about all day, every day, looking for crimes, looking for things to prevent crimes. Traffic stops are proactive policing to hopefully find other things that are happening. Like I said, we see it all the time. So I know I'm skirting around it, but this statute is a reactive statute, or Tennessee code. It gives law enforcement the ability to stop, question, determine who you are, that you have a right to carry, and be on your way. Now, I get that people go, well, I'm a law-abiding citizen, but it's if in doing so, I'm able to find a felon or someone who's literally walking to go rob a bank, and that proactive policing prevents a crime, then I think that's a win. If I stop 10 people, or let's say I stop 100 people and verify that they meet one of the exceptions, and out of those 100 people, one of them, I prevented a shooting, then I feel like it's a win. If you take that away from law enforcement, now we have to go to that reasonable suspicion or probable cause. Somebody carrying a firearm down the road in a constitutional carry state, you can't stop them unless there's other outside circumstances, which again, from the civilian side, I'm like, okay, yeah, I get that. If I'm not doing anything wrong, you shouldn't stop me. From the cop side, I'm like, well, yeah, now we have to go and find that reasonable suspicion to stop you. And to your point, does it make it easier? Sure. But in law enforcement, it's always we're damned if we do, damned if we don't. If we do something, they yell at us. If we don't do something, they yell at us because we didn't do something that we could have prevented. Every time there's an active shooter, everybody always goes, why didn't the cops stop this? We talked about the red flag laws. Oh, this and this and this and that. And blah, blah, blah. The person has this or that. And they always blame the cops. And it's like, well, do you want us to be reactive? Or do you want us to be proactive? Because in a reactive society, law enforcement is going to end up being just like fire is in EMS. We're going to sit at the station and we're not going to do anything until a 911 call goes out for service. And we won't be preventing crimes from happening. So in the cop mentality, I like that statute because it gives me the ability to stop, ask you who you are, verify who you are, send you on your way with no other problems. And in that 1 in 100, I prevent a crime. That's a win. But then it brings up the discussion of what you said is the other 99 people I just stopped. I took them out of their day, law-abiding citizens that weren't doing anything wrong. That makes me think of when the Patriot Act came out. They were able to the government could monitor your emails and stuff and check to see if any flags for terrorists, communications, or anything that would suggest, you know what I'm saying?
I remember
and
that.
people are like, oh, well, I'm a law-abiding citizen and you shouldn't have to tap my, I don't want you reading my emails and my cell phones. And I was always the type of person that went, I don't care. I got nothing to hide. Read my shit all you want. Because if you find the one terrorist that's going to prevent another 9/11, it's worth it, right? It's worth tapping in and reading my emails. You might read something you don't want to read or see a picture you don't want to see, but it's like if we can prevent another 9/11 because you're monitoring my emails, so be it. And that's just my perspective on it. I do get other people's perspectives on it, but it gives us the ability to be proactive, if that makes sense.
Yeah, but I highly disagree. I could not disagree more. The fact of the matter is, I would rather there be no gun-free zones, every citizen is armed, and the cops are there to clean up the mess afterwards. I think I'm going to react to a shooter a lot faster than the cop will. And,
yeah, absolutely.
The whole thing, it's like, I'm not going to let the government invade my privacy in order to make me safer, because what they determine to be safe and unsafe civil conduct will change. If I lived in Cuba, I would be in prison for the things that I've said and the things I've done. But if I hit time, and I was in Cuba 100 years ago, I would not be in prison. And the fact of the matter is, a government is as changing as a child going through puberty. Yeah. And the fact of the matter is, all it takes is some super left-wing nut, and we just voted a Muslim to be the mayor of New York City, where we had the largest terror attack in the history of our nation done by radical Muslims. So you think if there was a city that would not do that, it would be New York, because we say this religion, when taken to the fullest extent of belief, leads here. Maybe we should not have leaderships with this worldview. But no, they voted him in. And that tells me we will vote in anybody. I do not think it's if we vote in somebody who sees me as a radical danger. It's when. Maybe I'll be dead by then. Maybe I'll live to see it. It will happen eventually, because every nation has that person who says, well, what happens if I stick my finger in the electrical socket? So the fact of the matter is, the more freedoms or liberties that you give a government, rights, laws, taxes, things like that, they are easy for a government to gain, and it's hard to take away from them. And the fact of the matter is, they will be watching you like Big Brother and Orwell. And I'm going, no. Okay, here's the fact of the matter. The CIA had several tips on the people who committed 9/11. Several. And they did not stop it. So I do not see how reading my emails would make a difference. The fact of the matter is, they could have been stopped. They should have been stopped. They literally walked through airport and walked through security, and the alarms went off, and the security guards went, don't worry about it. So it was government incompetence. So giving them more invasions into my privacy will not make me safer. What should have done was overhaul, kick out everybody who failed, and replace them, and make an example saying, you suck, therefore you don't get promoted to where now you get more responsibility, like the freaking ATF. It's like they couldn't keep alcohol out of a 5-year-old's boot, but hey, you should do tobacco and firearms too. Oh, you just burned Waco down. Well, it's like, no, you say you suck, abolish you, somebody else is going to take your place who will actually do it right. So the fact of the matter is, it's like, no, it doesn't make you safer. It creates the illusion of you being safer, but you're not safer. I am willing to bet the Patriot Act has not stopped a single threat. Okay? At the very, very best, it's going to be like another one of those shooters where the FBI goes, well, we had them on our radar.
And it may very well be true, but I will say that I highly doubt they're reading everybody's emails. There's an algorithm in there that flags specific keywords. Nobody up at wherever is like going through Russell Jacobus's email unless I send something that flags it in the system. And that's what everybody thinks is like somebody somewhere is reading every single email and every single text message. And
no. As a wise one with bronchitis once said, ain't nobody got time for that.
But you're kind of bringing up my point that I just said is like, well, we blame the police. You bring up TSA, and I was actually going to bring that up anyway. And 9/11, it's like that was a big thing. It's like, well, they let them walk through, and they said, I don't know. And it's like I tell people all the time, you can't have your cake and eat it too. You want the government to protect you and feel safe, but you don't want them to infringe upon your privacy. Well, in order to be safe, there needs to be some level of infringement. So let's talk about TSA. People talk about all the time prior to 9/11, I hate having to go through the security checkpoints. I'm law-abiding citizen. I shouldn't have to go through this. I shouldn't have to go through random searches and all this kind of stuff. And this is bullshit and blah, blah, blah. It's a violation of my Fourth Amendment. And it's like, and then 9/11 happened and everybody's like, why did you let these terrorists get through the planes?
If I'm gonna be subjected to this, it should be effective.
Well, and no, but why do you think it happened? Why do you think they let them through? Because so many people were complaining all the time that TSA was constantly doing shit. That TSA got to the point where they're like, fuck it. You know what? Everybody go through. Everybody just be done with it. I don't want to deal with it because I'm constantly getting bitched and moaned at. This is what we're seeing nowadays with these First Amendment auditors where the cops are proactive policing. But now we've got people coming out in First Amendment auditor with their cameras and they're like, I'm a First Amendment auditor and I'm doing journalism. And now the cops are just like, fuck it. Okay, whatever. There's a guy standing in the middle of a public place recording people. He's a First Amendment auditor. Everybody's telling us we're jackasses now. So we're not going to do anything. We're not going to be proactive. We're not going to go. And that's going to be the guy that's going to pull a gun out when the cops leave and shoot everybody. And then they're going to be like, to the cops, why didn't you stop him? You were right there. Because we got to the point where like, fuck it. Everybody is bitching at us for doing it. So TSA probably was like, you know what, just go through. We've never had a problem. I tell people all the time, when you look at line of duty deaths, it's always the veteran cops. Not all, most of the time, the majority of our line of duty deaths are 10, 15-year cops, not the rookie cops. Because the rookie cops are doing the traffic stop, they get out, they go around their car, they open their door, they do their traffic ticket and everything outside the car like they were trained in FTO. But after 10 years and 1,000 times, not one thing has ever happened. So that one time they're like, screw it, it's hot, it's in the middle of July in Florida, I'm going to sit in my car and write the ticket. And then that's when the guy jumps out of the car and shoots him, and it only takes once. So TSA got lackadaisical because they're tired of people complaining about violating my Fourth Amendment and my privacy, and it only takes one time. And then after that one time, everybody got up in arms about why TSA didn't stop it from happening. So what did they do? They put more restrictions and they said, we're going to stop we're going to check all this stuff. We're going to do all this stuff. And, and then now here we are again. It's like, I want TSA to protect us so another terrorist doesn't get on the plane, but I don't want you to search me.
Well, here's the thing about TSA though. Nobody's forcing you to get on an airplane.
Well, yeah.
You can,
very true.
The fact of the matter
that's
is
a whole different conversation.
Airplanes are not airports a private business?
Yeah, that's a whole.
Well,
I was going to say that's a whole different thing.
The fact of the matter is, here's the thing.
You're getting on.
I don't want to deal with the nonsense that have to do with buses, so I drive my car. And the fact of the matter is, if I wanted to go to Florida, and I did not want to deal with TSA, I would drive.
Yeah.
And the thing is, so you do have an option to opt out. It's like, this is our business. Yeah. This is how we conduct it. If you don't like it, fly somewhere else. or take a car
Yeah.
or take a bus.
Yeah.
There are other routes. We're not infringing on your right to travel by saying, hey, if you don't want to travel our way, then you can travel a different way.
Oh, yeah.
So
I
for that
completely agree.
reason, it's like TSA, I'm like, I'm really not too concerned when it comes to TSA. Within reason. Everything is within reason. You know, I have some weird guy groping me, you know, inappropriately or something. Yeah, I'm going to have an issue with that. But the fact of the matter is, you know, I can understand why they don't want handguns on the plane, because the fact of the matter is you shoot a handgun and pop a window, that could be an issue, I imagine. I don't think it's going to suck anybody out, but I do think it'll be a problem. And so, but at the same time, it's like, I don't see a reason why you shouldn't be able to bring a taser, you know?
I agree. You know, that
But that's a public business or a private business. And if they say, just like we could put a sign up that says, no guns allowed. It'd be silly, we're a gun store, but we could.
Right.
And if somebody comes in and they're like, no, I should have my gun, I'd be like, well, then you can shop somewhere else. And that's what we tend to do. If I go to a store and they have imagery showing support for things that I am personally against, they have a no firearms sign, I'm going to say, oh, well, then I'll shop somewhere else.
Right.
And if it's like, well, I really wanted this, it's like, well, they don't owe it to me. I can either get off my high horse and say, well, yeah, I need to just get over the fact that they're supporting things I don't like because I really like whatever they're offering, or I have to do without or find another source from somebody who matches my values.
And I get that. And I completely agree with those points you make, but that still doesn't alleviate the fact that the majority of the American population turned around and blamed the police, blamed TSA, even though, to your point, yeah, you don't have to get on a plane, you know, it's like, but it still came down to where they blame the police. So if somebody's walking down the street openly carrying a firearm, which they're legally allowed to do, goes into the bank or goes into the gas station and shoots 5 people, they never blame the suspect. They're always turn around and go, why didn't the police do something about this? Why didn't they stop them? And it's for instance, one time I responded to a call of a possible suicide attempt. Lady called, said her husband walked into the woods with a noose and he had already tried to kill himself in the past. So we get there, she points in the direction where he's at. I walk into the woods. I see this guy standing about 25 feet up in a tree, standing on a branch with a noose wrapped around his neck, ready to jump at any time. So I spent the next 45 minutes talking with this guy. During those 45 minutes, he would take the noose off his neck, sit on the branch, stand back up, put it back on, and we went back and forth like that for 45 minutes. And at one point, he was sitting on the branch, and I thought, my taser could reach him. I could tase him right now. He'll fall out of the branch, probably 25 feet, might break an arm or something, or a leg or something, but I'm going to prevent him from hanging himself. And then I went, well, I don't want to do that, because if I do that, the people are going to be in uproar that I tased this guy 25 feet from a tree and broke his arm. But if I don't do it and he hangs himself, then people are going to be in uproar. Why didn't the cops stop him when he had the chance? And it's like, there is never a right answer. It's like, I'm damned if I do, damned if I don't. If I stop you on the side of the road to ensure that you're legally allowed to carry it and you're not a felon that's about to go murder 5 people, everybody's in uproar because it's a violation of my Fourth Amendment rights. I have the right to do it. But then if we don't, and he goes and murders 5 people, they're going to be like, why didn't the police stop him? So it's like, I don't know what the right answer is. Do you want us to be proactive or do you want us to be reactive? Do you want us to stop and question somebody, or you don't want us to stop and question somebody? If people stop blaming the police, then I'd be like, okay, well then but they always blame the police. Why didn't the police stop them from doing this? And so, you know, you tell me all the time, it's kind of irritating that I always have 2 answers to every question. It's like, I get it on the civilian side. I'm like, yeah, I don't want you to stop me. I'm doing what I have the right. I'm not doing anything illegal. I don't want you to stop me. But on the cop side, I go, yeah, I want to be proactive and prevent this person from doing it. And if I'm openly carrying my firearm, walking down the sidewalk, and a cop comes up to me and says, hey man, I know you're carrying, but I just want to stop and make sure that you don't fall under one of these exceptions to have a firearm. And I'd be like, hey, yeah, here's my driver's license. Here's my permit. Run whatever you got to run. It'd probably take 30 seconds to be like, okay, I'm on my way. 30 seconds out of my day, and I know that the cop is trying to prevent somebody from murdering somebody. So I'm okay with it. But I get why other people aren't okay with it. So I really don't know the answer to that.
Well, I think a big issue that we have in America is we are so obsessed with rights. Gays have rights, women's have rights, minorities have rights, everybody has rights. And we give very little thought whatsoever to responsibility. And so, I would ask like a gay person who wants to carry on about gay rights. Gays have rights. I say, okay, fine, you have rights. Yes, I agree. What's your responsibility to society? And they're going to stare at you dumbfoundedly. They don't have a clue what their responsibility to society is. And here's the thing. With rights comes responsibility. Responsibility and rights are two sides of the same coin. And so the fact of the matter is gun owners have rights. Gun owners also have responsibilities. And I believe we forgot that, and we tend to forget that. You are a carrier. You have your permit because you're taking on the responsibility to protect yourself and to protect others. And if you do not have that mindset, you're really not ready to carry. So you ask, do we want cops to be proactive or reactive? And my response to that would be, if we understand our responsibilities, we want them to be reactive.
Sure.
If we do not understand that we have responsibilities, we want them to be proactive. The problem that cops face with this willy-nilly mindset that people have is they do not consider their own responsibilities in these scenarios. You go to a concert and everybody is carrying at this concert. There is no security at the door. Every person is packing. I do not believe anybody will be stupid enough to try to shoot up that concert. Nobody's going to do it. But we lost that responsibility. We surrendered it when we just agreed that we would walk through security, we would get metal detected, and they would make sure we were not armed. Well, we surrendered our responsibility to protect ourselves. We surrendered our responsibility to protect others. Now it is solely on the people who are the security there. And if something happens to us, whether they're being proactive or reactive, it is on them because we surrendered that right. Ultimately, at the end of the day, I am my responsibility because I'm an adult. I am a free person. I am armed. I am my responsibility. A cop is simply plan B.
Well, that would be in a perfect society, though. I wish we lived in a world where we didn't need guns. Like, seriously, I wish we lived in a world where guns were not needed. Nobody killed anybody. There was not a threat to public safety. There was not a threat to me. Nobody was going to come out and rob anybody, and everybody was just happy-go-lucky living at peace. But we don't live in a perfect society like that. And we don't live in a perfect society where everybody's responsible. Going back to our original point, people think we don't need to take the permit classes. Well, let's say they take away the intent to go armed and they take away needing the permit for these places. Tennessee becomes a full constitutional carry state. Well, as far as I'm concerned, you should still take the permit classes outside of reciprocity, right? Because now if they take those things away, the only reason you would get your permit is for reciprocity, which I think people should still get. And people go, well, your business is a permit business, so you're only saying that to get money. It's like, if you're going to be responsible, that means taking firearms, handgun familiarization courses to be safe and responsible with it. And we see all the time that people aren't responsible. People are like, you don't need to take those classes. It's like, take out all the benefits of the permit, take out reciprocity. I am giving you the information you need to not only carry safely, but I'm giving you the Tennessee code to the use of deadly force. Now I'm educating you on when you can and can't actually shoot somebody, which brings up a whole different conversation because I've had so many people come in here talking to me about deadly force. And they're like, well, if somebody walks up to me and punches me in the face, I'm just going to shoot them. And it's like, that's not justified. So I know not only between the military and law enforcement that people aren't responsible. I agree with your statement. I really do. If we could all just be adults and be responsible, then that'd be great. But the majority of people aren't. We see it in our comments how they're constantly telling us we don't need the permit classes and stuff. And it's like, okay, well, we take away the permits. You should still be taking classes on proper safe handling, fundamentals, and when you cannot use deadly force. So if we're going to take away the permit and be constitutional carry, but we still want people to be responsible, then the question is, are they still going to be required to take a course to show that they've at least learned the safety fundamentals and the use of deadly force?
I mean, you already know what my opinion of that is. I think there should be an 8-week course that's just a part of your curriculum during your senior year of high school, where you learn everything there is to know about firearms and their laws. And then if you want to use that knowledge, use it. If you don't want to use it, don't. I've needed that information far more times than I've ever needed to know the square footage of a cone. I've never needed to know that. I never will need to know it. It's nonsense. I will never need to know that info.
The thing that irritates me the most about people talking about constitutional carries and stuff and training and permit classes, all this kind of stuff, is everybody wants to talk about not having to have permits and not having to be, because of Second Amendment, and I get it. But it's like, I always use the analogy to vehicles. It's like we have to pass a driving test. We have to study, we have to do a knowledge test, we have to do a driving test to get our driver's license. You have to take extra steps if you want CDLs, you have to take extra steps if you want to drive semi-trucks. And it's like, nobody says anybody should willy-nilly be able to get behind the wheel of a semi-truck, an 18-wheeler, and drive it 80 miles an hour down the highway with no training. Mm-hmm. Nobody ever says that. But most people don't complain that Joe Schmo citizen with zero firearms training should be able to carry their firearm and walk into public with no training whatsoever. When we have far more traffic fatalities every year than we do gun violence fatalities. But when somebody crashes, they don't blame the vehicle, they blame the driver.
They don't blame legal car owners.
But when somebody shoots somebody, they blame the guns and not the person that was shooting it. And it's like, nobody complains about having to go through driving and tests and standards to get your driver's license, especially the heightened standards for CDLs and stuff like that. But it's like, oh my gosh, you're making me take a class on how to safely carry my handgun? Second Amendment violation. And it's like, we have more traffic fatalities every year than gun violence. But you don't complain about taking, driving tests and stuff like that.
But the thing is, you're not infringing on the right to travel. You're just saying you can't travel this way. You can still travel. You can
I'm not infringing on your right to carry a gun. You can have a gun in your house. You just can't carry it out in public with everybody else.
Yeah, I can understand that take. Right? I can understand that take. But the fact of the matter is, the Second Amendment wasn't written for your living room only.
No, yeah, I get it. I know. I'm not arguing that one bit. All I'm saying is that we take away the permit, the need for the permit constitutional carry in Tennessee. But then do we still require people to take handgun safety training classes, deadly force classes, in order to carry it? And if we do, we're essentially still requiring a permit. Mm-hmm. There's no physical permit. You're just showing that you've taken some kind of education safety class. Going back to your comment on being a responsible gun owner. What does it mean to be a responsible gun owner? Who determines what the definition for being a responsible gun owner is, and once we define that, what steps do we take to be a responsible gun owner? In my aspect, a responsible gun owner means taking proper safety classes to know how to handle it so you don't negligently shoot yourself or somebody else. And again, knowing the state laws on deadly force. Because I go back to, they always blame the cops. Let's say we're not blaming the cops this time, but they take away everything. You're not required to take any classes. And now people are carrying without knowing the Tennessee laws for the use of deadly force, which means opportunity and jeopardy. They have to have the intent. There has to be a significant and imminent threat of death or serious bodily injury. And all these steps have to be in play in order for you to deploy your firearm in a deadly force situation. Now nobody knows that. And it's like, okay, well, what do? Do we prevent people from going to jail for unjustifiable use of deadly force by making them take training classes, but then people go back to, you're violating my Second Amendment because I shouldn't have to take it because I have the right to carry, and then we go on this big loop, and it's like, what are we going to do?
I think you and I can conclude that we vaguely agree on everything, but not completely agree on everything. We have like the same spirit of agreement, just not exactly the same spirit of execution.
Well, that's what's great about it. We can agree and still be, or disagree and still be okay. And that's what it should be about in the first place.
Yep, that's the American way.
But there's a lot more that I'd like to cover in reference to some of our comments, and we'll get to on our next section.
All right, thanks for tuning in.
Thanks.